Welcome back. It's been a long time, but I've been thinking of how to entertain you, how to help you reach the enlightenment you're after, which is getting to know yourself fully, diving within. So, still thinking about the X-Men, right? Because we have the whole alphabet to go through. In English, I stumbled upon the letter N. So I thought I could construct the N-Men. So what would the N-Men be about? Of course, the N takes us to the N-word. And the N-word is, perhaps this is the best way to describe it without actually saying it, is the second half of the surname of that beloved Austro-North American actor and former governor of California who once was a barbarian from the past, then became a cyborg from the future, and who always had a certain fondness for Mexican maids, right? So we know who we're talking about. Our beloved Arnold. We all love him. So the second part of his surname represents the N for the N-Men, right? So these superheroes, they wouldn't be going about and punishing people for saying the N-word. No. They would be lurking about, watchful, with ears open, trying to identify those ignorant people, let's call them, who use the N-word without understanding the historical weight such a word carries within. Like the shamans from the Mexican jungle and the South American jungles as well, they say that words carry energies. They have their own specific weight. So the N-word, in this case, does have a certain oppressive weight. Some people who do not belong to, let's say, the race that is linked to the N-word might not know the sufferings of those unfortunate human beings. So the N-men would go hunting down this white Western man who give away the N-word gratuitously and just without any ability to discern and understand and exercise empathy for his or her fellow human beings. So the N-men, they identify these racists, let's call them by their names, and using techniques that I read in Tales from the East, from esoteric masters, from whatever tradition you want, Sufi, Taoist, they would grab this racist subhuman person, they would invite him to put his head inside a bowl containing some water, and by some magic, in 2 or 3 seconds, they would make sure these racists, given the chance to understand and exercise empathy, right, and understanding for the trials and tribulations and oppression his fellow black human friends or foes have suffered. So the N-men, skillfully, they bring a bowl of water, they invite the racist to sink his head in for 2-3 seconds, but in those 3 seconds or 2, they will experience an eternity. They will find themselves rowing in a boat from their home Africa into an unknown territory. They would experience the life in Virginia, in the cotton fields, working 60 hours a day. They would experience what it's like to be taken away from your family, sold, humiliated, oppressed. They would travel in time, be in the South Africa of the apartheid. Then they would be Ethiopian Jews in Israel. And they would just suffer every kind of oppression that the black people have throughout history, especially by Western white hands. And then, as if by magic, the Ant-Man would bring them back to life, to this present moment. They would give them the opportunity to recant, to repent, to understand, and to exercise the love that I'm sure they still have inside. Of course, the Ant-Men are not saints, so if the racist doesn't understand what his fellow human beings have gone through because of the white man's oppression, the Ant-Man will have some, let's say, leeway to exercise some physical punishment, rape, whatever they feel like in the moment, especially because if after suffering what the black people throughout the centuries have, and that is not enough to make them understand why at least it's wrong to use the N-word, then of course they deserve a good beating. But the tipping point, let's say, or the creme of the cherry of the cake would be the N-men trapping them, the racists, in this alternate life. So again, they would invite them, not so gently, to sink their faces in the bowl of water, and suddenly they will live a complete life as a slave, for instance, in the land of the free, as a servant and slave of one of the founding fathers of that wonderful democratic paradigm of freedom, which is the United States. Or whatever you fancy, of course. Just the United States is just an easy example to use. So, Ant-Men fighting bigotry, fighting racism, fighting prejudice, giving a chance to learn why the N-word shouldn't be uttered. Of course, then, if a black person does it, the N-men would have no authority in that regard. They would leave that to be sorted within that community. That's all for this beautiful video. As a last suggestion, and because he became a US citizen, Arnold, you might consider changing the second part of your surname. Like, you could be Arnold Schwarze Black American, for instance, yeah, or Schwarze African American. Yeah. So we avoid the second part of your troublesome surname. Thank you for watching. Be happy, be safe, or be whatever the fuck you want. Also, do not subscribe if you want. If you want, do not subscribe, or subscribe only if you don't want. I don't care. The bell, the notifications, this is just to share my love for humanity and the ideas that come into my mind to create a future with superheroes that not only punish, but they give you a chance to understand through empathy, love, the troubles of being, in this case, of a black tone in your skin, right? So we're all humans, and we should aim for a future like Star Trek, okay? Live long, prosper, and have fun.